Sorry about that. Hadn't got myself completely ready for this channel. All right, so obviously you saw the title. I'm going to be talking about from the perspective of Vedic astrology at the moment that Trump's COVID infection diagnosis was revealed to the world. We're going to find out if that had any what can we glean from that? And so first let me say I am not making any predictions. I don't do that. I believe that we do have the ability, sorry about that. I believe that we do have the ability to make decisions about our lives, and maybe there are some things we can't avoid, but I'm not going to make any prediction on Trump's recovery one way or the other. And let me just say, for the record, it is my sincere hope that Donald Trump and his wife and anybody else in the world, for that matter, anybody in the world who has been infected with this virus, may they all recover and may they all live long, happy lives and have everything that they would like, including Donald Trump, his wife, and those in his immediate sphere of influence who also, there's a few people in his government that have come down with COVID. So I wish them all health and well-being. But because he's such a huge figure and we've been watching him, and we can take a look and see what kinds of things in his Vedic chart might have portended something. And if anything, what I'm going to, if I'm going to make any predictions, it'll be more like, suggestions on, based on your chart, sir, it would be a good idea to maybe take these precautions or to do this. So let me go ahead and just get started with that. By the way, in case you haven't seen it, I don't know how long ago it was, I made a video about Trump a long time ago, and I looked at his chart and I looked at his D9 chart, which is, you have in Vedic astrology, it can get very complicated. And so you have the birth chart, and then you have what's called the D9, which is a surgical opening of the ninth house, which is used to predict what somebody's life is going to be like later on in life, once they get basically to my age. Once they get to middle age and above, the D9 chart starts to come through, and so you can see how somebody's life is going to progress. And I took a look at that and I made some predictions based on that. And so we might be seeing some of that coming to light now, because this could show some changes for President Trump. So let me get into it, specifically the bullet points here. So bullet point number one. At the time of the announcement, I believe it was October 2nd at 1 a.m. in Eastern time. That's my understanding. So at that time, what was going on is you had a full moon in Trump's 8th house. So let's take a look at that. That's a big deal because the 8th house is the house of sudden ups and downs, transformation. It's the house of life and death. So anything that sort of sits in that house, or when you have major planets go over that house, it can mean sudden shifts. The moon is associated with health in terms of healing, nurturing, things that we, life force energy. So when you've got moon transiting over the 8th house, that can be something to look at. So that's just one thing that we want to take a look at. I'm going to come back to Trump's 8th house and other things that are going to increase that. And then you have Ketu transiting over his moon in his birth chart. So this is actually more than just Ketu transiting over his natal moon. This is actually Rahu and Ketu have come into a nodal return. As you know, I just went through one. I've just come out of it. I'm now out of my nodal return, and a lot of things in my personal life have shifted and changed. A lot of the ways that I feel, because I went through kind of a weird period in my personal life, which I won't share with you, but you know, where I was thinking differently and acting differently in ways that I never had. And I was kind of shocked at, wow, I can't believe that I'm thinking like this and taking these actions. And then, you know, I did some research and I found that during nodal returns, especially the houses that my nodes were over, these are some of the things you could expect. And that when I looked at it, I saw, oh, this is going to calm down on this date. You know, when my nodal return shifted, you can expect there's going to be a big shift in your mentality and everything else. And that's absolutely true. There was a complete shift where I sort of went back to the way I normally think and act in these areas, in some personal areas. And so that told me a lot. So what's happening is that Trump has just entered into his nodal return. Now, the thing about nodal returns, if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me explain a little more. So in your chart, in everybody's chart, we have the north and the south nodes of the moon. They aren't actual planets, they're mathematical points having to do with the moon. And the north and south nodes of the moon represent the karmic things that bring you into manifestation and take you out. So when you're born, when you look at your birth chart, wherever your Rahu and Ketu is sitting, which is the north node and the south node, wherever they're sitting, they're always directly opposite each other. Wherever they're sitting, that is going to tell you for the rest of your life what your main ambitions are, your addictions, your compulsions, you know, what you need to learn, what you need to experience, what could potentially be, you know, karmically challenging for you, your pitfalls. And on the other hand, we were just talking about Rahu, the south node, Ketu, represents that which is going to take you out of this world. It represents your release from the physical world, i.e. death. It represents things that you've mastered in previous lives that will show that you have mastery over, but you're not interested in. I've even come to the conclusion now that where your Ketu is sitting will be something that you may have interest in. But when you go after that interest, it starts to sap your life energy from you, because that's a past life. For instance, for me, acting. You know, I still think that, you know, you think whatever you want. I still think I'm one of the greatest actors that's ever walked the planet. And everybody that has worked with me and, you know, people that have seen me and all that said the same things. And people would say things like, how come you're not a movie star and why haven't we seen you and all that kind of stuff. Well, part of it is because I sabotaged myself because of my unconscious blocks. But the other part is that every time I would act and I would do a part, it would literally drain the life force out of me. I would lose, like, it felt like I lost like 10 years of my life. And sometimes I would completely lose myself in the part to such a degree that, you know, after I'd come off stage, I'd have to grab onto something and bring myself back into my own life and my own body. And so, you know, it really just drained the life out of me. The same is true when I perform drums, especially shamanic drums. I'm lying in bed for 3 days afterwards. It just pulls all of the life force out of the top of my head. That's because my Ketu is sitting over the house that indicates all of that. So wherever Ketu sits is going to represent where you've been, and also represents you know, that stuff that's going to take life force energy potentially away from you. So that is important because Rahu and Ketu, first off, has aligned itself in Trump's Trump's anyway, it's gone back to the same houses that it was in when Trump was born, which means it is a karmic reset. And so, it's already there, but when they transit over themselves, it multiplies it, and it's sort of like, when we leave this world, and we, according to many people, when you die, one of the first things that happens is you have a review of your life. Well, this is one of those times where you have a review of your life, and everything up till that point is going to shift, and things that were part of your identity and part of who you were, things that were really important to you on an ego level, these things then shift, and there's a reshifting of everything. So it's very possible, if you enter a nodal return and you're not looking at your life from a spiritual perspective, that it can be extremely, just everything in your life takes a huge shift. So we've got a full moon in Trump's 8th house at the time of this announcement, which means that his mind, remember, his mind and his emotions is his moon, so the 8th house is upheaval. So this was obviously and understandably a very shocking thing for him to hear, as you can imagine. It would be shocking for any of us to get this, but he's the president, and he's constantly surrounded by people that are supposed to protect him from all this. And we could get into the debate about his behavior, not wearing a mask and doing those live campaign rallies with all the people around, and all that kind of stuff. He's been criticized for that. We could take a look at that, but it clearly showed that he felt invulnerable. And I can understand that. You've got a team of people, that are taking care of your security. You're president of the United States. You've got Secret Service, and you're getting tested all the time. And so he probably had this feeling of invincibility. And then to get that diagnosis must have been a shock to him. And it's not that, again, that's not a put down. It would be shocking for me also. So, and I remember hearing reports about him being paranoid about, not wanting to get COVID. And so if that were true, and it turns out he got it, he is 74 years of age. He's in that bracket of, you got to be careful. Who wouldn't be scared? So that was his frame of mind. But, Moon also, as I said, has a lot to do with health, life force energy. And COVID, will sap you of, everybody who gets it and has symptoms says that they felt really fatigued. And I have to say that, even though Donald Trump says he's fine, the last, when he got back to the White House and he got out of the, if you haven't seen it, you can go find it. He got off of the helicopter after being taken back from the hospital, after being released from the hospital, and then he got out of the helicopter and he walked up the stairs to the White House balcony there, and then he took his mask off and stood there for a while, having pictures taken, and he was visibly out of breath. Not just like, you could see that he was trying to hide it, but you could see that he was winded. You could see his chest, you could see that he was winded. You could see on his face he wasn't all that comfortable. And that that's going to play a lot on, like I said, his life force energy, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's continue. I'm not wishing any ill on him. That's nothing unusual. Anybody that have any symptoms are going to have that. So I'm not saying that that's an indication of anything. Again, I wish him nothing but health. But let's continue. So K2, because he's going through this nodal return, K2 is transiting on top of his natal moon. So that's going to have an effect on his mind, because K2 represents, it takes you away from whatever he's associated with. So if K2 is transiting over his, which it is, it's transiting over his natal moon, and K2 is already conjunct his moon in his chart. So now Ketu, is transiting over itself, so that is intensifying everything, which is going to have an effect on his mind and could potentially have an effect on his experience of being able to get life force energy, which is breath. One of the things you do for life force energy is breathing. So that's going to have, that could have an effect on his experience of being able to achieve life force energy. And on the other side, we've got Rahu is transiting over his natal sun because it's a nodal return. So here's what's going on. You've already got Rahu and sun are conjunct in his chart. Ketu and moon are conjunct in his chart as well. So now they're coming over themselves. They're going to intensify it. And again, this is like a wiping of the hard drive. And this is all coinciding because this happened right as he was diagnosed. It was right around that same time. I just made a video about Mars going retrograde into the sign of Pisces, right? And that's a big deal. So imagine when your Rahu and your Ketu align over themselves. It's going to have a huge impact. Now, on top of that, the sun is the lord of his ascendant, which is his physical body. So his ascendant is Leo. He has the same ascendant as me, and his Rahu is going over his sun. It's already conjunct his sun. His sun is lording over his physical body. So that could have an effect. Rahu represents viruses. So, if it's a coincidence, it's a pretty interesting coincidence when you look at somebody's chart, these kinds of things that can happen. Let's see, what else did I want to talk to about that? Mars, for him, has gone retrograde into his 8th house. So when Mars goes into the 8th house, or when Mars transits over the 8th house, you can have accidents because the 8th house is severe ups and downs. Now, his, like mine, he has Pisces in the 8th house. Mars does not like being in Pisces because it's this fire planet, and it's now going backwards through its Gandanta point, changing from fire to water. So it's like being on fire and then being doused with cold water. And so that's in his 8th house. So Mars is your energy, your vitality. And I can definitely feel that. In fact, I chose not to go surfing today. There was a big swell that came in, and my body was just saying, I don't want to put myself through that. And I went and looked at it, and the waves were, they weren't very surfable. They were really closed out, and it looked like, like some work. And I'm like, yeah. So I listened to my body because I know where my Mars is. My Mars is my energy. And so when Mars is in the 8th house, it can mean accidents. So, so his Mars has transited back into his 8th house, causing some interesting things. Now he has his Mahadasha right now is Jupiter Saturn. So if you're not familiar with what a Mahadasha is, a Mahadasha means great time period, and we all go through them, and they last for sometimes years. So he's in a Jupiter time period, which means that his 8th house has been stimulated for a while. So his Jupiter is lording over his 8th house, which means that 8th house is going to be activated, which is what? Big ups and downs. He became president out of nowhere. He's had all kinds of big ups and downs, which is the 8th house. He's been all kinds of scandals, and he's been impeached, and there are still ongoing legal things, that are nipping at his tail. And now there's things coming out saying that he's not, he's broke and in debt, and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's interesting that as his Rahu and Ketu are lining up again, it's wiping of the hard drive, and let's see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen, but in terms of his I'm not talking about his health right now. I'm just talking about his presidency and the upcoming election. What has happened, based on the information that I've been getting, is that his reputation is starting to take a nosedive. So it's starting to take a nosedive. He's taking a nosedive in the polls. This is, forget about his health, this announcement of him getting COVID after having pretty much campaigned on COVID isn't a big deal, we're in control of things. You know, lots of his followers refuse to wear masks. And, you know, I don't know if he's come out and said that people shouldn't wear masks. He's obviously not followed that. He's gone out in public, surrounded himself by the public, not worn masks most of the time. And so that has been part of his mystique, as sort of being invincible. And so the fact that he even got it and had to go to the hospital, and they had to put, you know, give him experimental drugs, and they had to, you know, give him oxygen and things like that, you know, that hurts his mystique. And as it turns out, some of the latest polls is that he's dipped big time as a result of that. Now, that can change tomorrow because, you know, polls do, and polls don't necessarily mean everything. But the reason why I point that out is because in the previous video that I made of him, I was looking at his birth chart versus his D9 chart, which is his Navamsha chart. And do I even have his, I might have his chart somewhere that I can find. Let me see if I can find it. If I have it already here, I don't think I do, but yeah, I don't have it here. I'm not going to take the time to go get it, but I could show you. If you could see it, go back and watch that video. You'll know what I'm talking about. So if you put those two charts right next to each other, you have Rahu and Ketu. In his birth chart, Rahu is in the 10th house, which is career. And so that, when you have Rahu and Sun together, that is the sign of a dictator, you know, like a world ruler. Because Rahu in the 10th house is the sign of the ruler, the king. And so when you put Rahu in there, boom, you know, that Rahu doesn't want to be king. Rahu wants to be emperor of the world. So you have that next to his sun, which is also an indication of royalty. Then you see the potential of somebody being a world leader, political world leader. And now directly opposite that, you have Ketu and Moon conjunct in his 4th house, which means that he wasn't close to his mother, most likely, because the 4th house is mother, nurturing, so there wasn't any of that there. So this is why he's so, if you've noticed, he's obsessed with being out in the public. Even now, he's sick. He's contagious with, you know, potentially deadly plague disease, and he can't stay in the hospital. He has to go drive around and wave at his followers, and then he has to go back into the White House, and he has to take his mask off, and he has to salute for 10 minutes in front of the cameras, and then he has to go make a Twitter video, you know, as soon as he gets back, telling everybody how okay he is. That's because he gets his nourishment from being out in public. Because Ketu sits in his 4th house, which is his home. So he doesn't like being at home by himself. He feels alone. He feels empty. This isn't a judgment on him. I'm just looking at his chart. That's what his chart says. And his moon is already conjunct his Ketu, so that means when he's by himself at home, his mind starts to get weird. He starts to literally lose his mind when he's at home. So he needs to offset that by being out in public. That's where he, you know, around people, that's where he feels comfortable. Now, you take that and you look at his D9, which represents what's underneath it, and also where things are going to go with anybody as they get older. The chart doesn't change. Your birth chart is your birth chart, but it changes. It shows the influences that start to come through. And what you see when you look at that is it looks like a mirror image, because the opposite, the D9 is the opposite, where Rahu and Sun are in his 4th house, and Ketu and Moon are conjunct in his 10th house. So what that means is that in terms of his reputation, which is his 10th house, it starts off in his birth chart that he's this, he's this extremely successful businessman, CEO, ruler of the world, dictator type, Rahu and Sun together in the 10th house. So that's, his birth chart says that's what he can look forward to. And then the D9 says where things are going to go. There's a complete shift. Now, whenever you look at a D9 chart, which is the 9th house surgically opened, and you put them next to each other, whenever you see planets in the same house in both the birth chart and the D9 chart, that's something that doesn't change. So for instance, if he had Rahu and Sun in the 10th house in both his birth chart and his D9 chart, that would mean this is like Queen Elizabeth. You become queen and you're going to be there for 60, 70 years and then you're going to die, because that 10th house, thing is not going away. So that doesn't happen. Most of the time you'll find it in other houses and things like that. So there's some kind of a shift that occurs. At the very least, the effect of the planets, there's some slight shift at the very least. But when you have it completely opposite like this, it means there's going to be a complete reversal. So it's not guaranteed, but it means that there's going to be a strong influence as he gets into the later part of his life, which he's in, for his reputation to take a nosedive, because Ketu in the 10th says no reputation. Ketu and Moon conjunct means you're losing your mind. Your Ketu takes you away from your emotional mind. So it could have somebody with erratic emotions up and down, something like narcissistic personality disorder or borderline personality disorder. It's not guaranteed. I'm just saying these are things that can come out. So when I see somebody's 10th house with Rahu and Sun completely flipping to Ketu and Moon, it means that there is the potential for a big reversal in his reputation. So it makes me wonder, is this the beginning of the shift that I predicted? Maybe I'm wrong about it. Again, that was a while ago. And to be honest, I was quite stumped, because at the time that I made the video, what was happening was the FBI was investigating him, and there was all these congressional hearings, and there was all this testimony about how he was trying to, all the stuff he was doing, supposedly, breaking all kinds of rules and laws. And so I thought, it's going to be this. These scandals are going to take him down. And they didn't. He's bulletproof. And so that kind of made me scratch my head. But I didn't take into account the fact that he was making his way towards his nodal return, which is going to have a huge impact in everybody's life. Whenever it happens to anybody, it happens every 18 years. So this is his, what is he? He's 74. So, I just went through my third nodal return. Let's see, 18, 36, yeah. So then there's, the 18, 36, whatever is 50 something and 70 something. And so he's hitting that, which means this is the shift, the karmic shift that's going to hit him probably for the rest of his life. He might live another 18 years, probably not. Most people don't live, that would make him, pushing 100. Most people don't live that long. He's not known for his healthy habits. It's amazing he's still alive, the way that he eats and lives and stuff like that. But good for him. He's got a lot of good genes working for him. So congratulations. I don't begrudge anybody a healthy life. That's some pretty important stuff. Now I want to take a look at some predictions another astrologer made a while back about him, which I find interesting, because now we're starting to see. Now, when did this person say this? This was a Vedic astrologer, and this was written in May of of this year, and it had already been out there. So whoever this was had made these predictions about him sometime before May 31st of this year. Okay? So even before COVID had even, existed. 2.5, anyway, okay. I don't know exactly when, but it was a while ago, obviously before May. So this person says, this is a Vedic astrologer saying, things will become even more difficult for Donald Trump after September 24th of this year. So this must have been written in 2020. When Rahu and Ketu will change signs. So that's what I'm talking about. Rahu and Ketu change signs, which is a big deal in general. But for Donald Trump, it's a shift into his nodal return, a complete, hard drive reset for his life, a karmic reset, which means things karmically that he's been holding on to that don't serve him are going to get blown up. If he's got karma, like pending karma based on those past 18 years, this is when he's going to have to pay up. So that's why it's important to have live a spiritual life, and by a spiritual life, I mean be self-aware, be self-analytical, make sure that you're treating yourself right and treating other people right and doing the best you can to stay conscious and all of that, because that stuff builds up. And one of the times when you get, the bill is during these nodal returns. So this person is saying that just the changing of Rahu entering Taurus and Ketu entering Scorpio on September 24th is going to, there's some other reasons are going to cause him problems. So it says Rahu will transit natal Sun and natal Rahu in Taurus sign. Ketu will transit natal Moon and natal Ketu in Scorpio sign in Donald Trump's astrology chart between September 24th and November 3rd, which is election day. So bear in mind this hit now, this is going to be influencing him up until election day. And it says, this is another astrologer talking here, says, this will be the time when the 2020 presidential election will be tilted away from Donald Trump. Assuming that that's true, I think we've seen that. We've seen that slowly been happening. But according to recent polls, the debate was bad news for Trump. He lost a lot of support there. And I'm sorry, there's no way that him getting this virus is going to be helpful for him. A lot of people are going to lose faith in him. On a logical point, people are going to lose faith in him because, he should have known better. And he's going around, flouting, what people are telling you to do to protect yourself. And on a less logical note, his supporters who like the fact that he didn't wear a mask and didn't care and flouted, just flaunted his disregard. They like that on an emotional level because it makes them feel like they're backing, the Superman, the strong guy. For him to get sick like that, that's going to be bad for them because they worship his perceived strength. So him, going into the hospital, I mean, there's no coincidence that he took the mask off as soon as he had to, because for him, that's a sign of weakness, and he made fun of people wearing masks. So that he must have felt that way. He didn't want to have to wear a mask if he didn't, if he couldn't help it. If he could help it, I mean. So if that's accurate, we're seeing that now, potentially based on this guy's prediction that at this time you're going to see support waning for him in the presidential election. Let's see here. Now, I don't know anything about this from an astrological perspective, but let's see. So this person says, so Donald Trump cannot win the next election. We'll find out. We don't know. Any foreign interference in the U.S. presidential election will not succeed. I don't know anything about that either. I don't know, from an astrological perspective, I don't know why they say that, but we'll find out. Because Trump's time is so bad during this period. During this time, this is the other astrologer, during this time, Donald Trump will do his best to postpone the presidential election. I completely believe that, especially now that he's sick and he can't be on the road. You know him, he wants 2 extra years because something in the election he lost. I don't know. So he always tries to get interest on everything. So if he can use that, I think he'll say, no, we should put it off because I've been sick. It's not fair. So that wouldn't surprise me. It also wouldn't surprise me that he would do that anyway. But we'll see. Anyway, this guy is making this prediction. We'll see. So he goes on to say, please remember, October, November, December 2020 are difficult months. So that means he's saying from this month, November and December are difficult months for Donald Trump's health and finances as well, due to Rahu's transit over the natal position of the ascended Lord's Sun in Taurus. So his Sun is in Taurus in his birth chart. So Rahu is already conjunct the Sun. So he's saying that Rahu is transiting over that, and whenever Rahu, transits over the Sun, it creates an eclipse. The Sun is the planet that's lording over his ascendant, which is his physical body. So that, like, double Rahu over the Sun, according to him, could affect him physically, and according to him also financially. I don't know why he says that financially. Oh, because the 10th house, perhaps. Then he goes on to say, the solar eclipse on December 14th is falling at 29 degrees in Scorpio, very close to Trump's natal moon. And natal Ketu, and opposite is natal Sun, natal Rahu, and Taurus sign. Anyway, so we'll see. So basically the bottom line is that this guy is saying from September through December is a very bad time for Donald Trump, potentially, reputation-wise, financially. And as it turns out, there's been this revelation, whether you choose to believe it or not, that this whole time he's been broke and millions of dollars in debt. And so if that's true, then that would align with this, because it's lining over his, his 10th house, which is his reputation. So his reputation, according to this, is being damaged. Again, that's why it's really important to have, just live your life right, because when these things happen to everybody, if you've got nothing to hide, when some malefic aspect comes over your reputation, you're not going to lose out that badly. This is why, old school, like yogis, like if you go to an old school yogi, especially like, 100 years ago, and you would go to him and you say, Master Yogi Guru, please give me a mantra that will help me really become super spiritual. And the yogi would go, okay, you need to chant this. And they'd give him a mantra. And then the person would go and chant the mantra, and they'd lose everything. They'd lose their wife, their kids, their job, their money, and they'd end up, broke and homeless. And then they'd go back to the guru and say, Guru, I said, give me, a mantra for good luck. And he says, I did. Now you don't have anything to worry about. Now you can just completely focus on your connection to your soul. And so that's when we have these nodal returns. That kind of thing can happen because it's wiping the hard drive of all the erroneous stuff. And if we choose to take action based on all of these karmic things that are coming up in us, these karmic drives that are coming up in us, then when it comes time to pay the bill, we're gonna be shocked at the bill. But if you don't have anything to hide, you don't have anything to lose, then it will be an intensification of your purities, so to speak. So anyway, there's that. We'll see if any of this comes true. I'm happy now to take any questions if you have them. Let's see. Riho Rasta, question. If two planets are very close in degrees but in different houses, how does this change the effect of the conjunction? If they're in... those are two separate things. So if they're in the same house and they share the same degrees, they're conjunct. But for instance, Rahu and Ketu are always the exact same degree, and they're in completely opposite each other. So they're not conjunct. So if I'm reading your question right, you're confusing because you can have planets in the same degree, but in different signs and different houses, and they're not conjunct. They're in completely different parts of the sky. Okay? Jasmine Renee, that's not a question. I usually prefer questions. She says, I feel he's been laying low as possible, but still walking forward. This isn't okay. I don't disagree with that. Riho, question. When we astrologers give syllables to a client, with which dialect do we pronounce them? You pronounce them, Riho, you got a reading from me, right? So if I gave you a syllable, it's always anything but American and English. English speakers, whether they be from Australia, United States, England, we do stupid things to vowels. So the vowels are, A is pronounced A, O is pronounced O, E is pronounced E, I is pronounced E, and U is pronounced U. So, and the syllables are in Sanskrit. So you would pronounce them with a Sanskrit dialect, which is pretty much everywhere in the world except for English speakers mostly. The vowels are A, E, I, O, U. Right? A, E, I, O, U. And Americans say A, E, I, O, U. And they do stupid things with them. So, you're not an American, so you should be able to just use whatever your natural dialect is with syllables. You'll be fine. James Peck, let's see, is that a question? He's saying good things about the Hool breath. If you're interested in that, you're new to the channel, go anywhere and you can type in Hool breath on YouTube and you can learn how to do that. And he says that it says it saved his life from pneumonia. Wow. Well, congratulations. He says, check out my artwork because I want to do a portrait of you. You mean me? With my permission? You have my permission. I don't know that I want to see it. But my likeness isn't, my likeness isn't copyrighted. But I appreciate it. If you're asking my permission to do that, if you want to, you can. It's kind of hard for me to hear. It's my ego. I'm nothing special. I'm just another person. So that makes me feel a little uncomfortable. But, you have my permission if you'd like to do that. AF. Okay, that's not a question. Yeah, I kind of don't like your position there, AF. I have very clear political beliefs. I'm doing a pretty good job, I think, at the moment of not, talking about them. I have respect for people who have opinions. In my experience, people who don't take a stand when you've got such polarized opposites is that they're trying to avoid being criticized. And I see this with wives of men who have really strong political opinions. And they, makes them uncomfortable. So they just choose not to have an opinion. And when people say, I'm middle of the road, meaning they don't have an opinion, and another one is people demonize both parties, which we could do. But when I hear that, it sounds like codependent, ass kissing. I'm just afraid. I want everybody to like me, so I'm not going to have an opinion. I have a very strong opinion, but I'm not sharing it, not because I'm afraid of people disliking me, but because it's not good for my channel. So I don't get into it. So your AF, again, this is usually a question and answer. So let me just say, for everybody's benefit, the best thing you can do on my channel is ask an honest question. The worst thing you can do is dump your opinion. I know that most places, most of these live, especially if you're not familiar with my channel, this is what people do. You come to throw your opinion around. Duality is duality, and you're saying duality is beautiful, but it has been on the negative spectrum way too long and intense here on planet Earth. I'll tell you why that's going on. So we go through, and this is Vedic astrology again, we go through what are called Yugas, and Yugas last for, how long do they last for? 12,000 years, something like that. And if you've heard, there's the golden Yuga, where human beings are at their most spiritual, which means that, we're closest to the galactic center, supposedly, and we're the most spiritual. The furthest part away is called Kali Yuga, which means age of darkness. Most people, even a lot of Vedic astrologers, think we're in Kali Yuga, but we're not. We actually came out of Kali Yuga during the Renaissance. So in the 1700s, when people started worshiping, or not worshiping, but they started idealizing the human figure again, and the statues of Greek gods, and people started reading Greek mythology, and started getting back into philosophy and more into getting out of the Middle Ages, basically. When we made the shift out of the Middle Ages into the Renaissance, that was a shift from Kali Yuga into a time that is called Dvapara Yuga. Dvapara Yuga, in Kali Yuga, supposedly 75% of the mentality of the human race was in darkness. That would make sense because that was during the Middle Ages when people were burned at the stake and they were peeled, their skin was peeled off of them simply because they read the Bible in, in whatever their language was. They would do that to people. The Inquisition, witch trials, all that kind of stuff. And then we entered into the Renaissance, and then people started getting more less religious and less dogmatic and more freedoms, and that's when you had democracy start to take over and all that kind of stuff. And so that's Dvapara Yuga, and in Dvapara Yuga you have half and half. Half of the population's mind is in awareness and the other half is in darkness. And we see this in the political spectrum, because never in my life have you seen such polarization. I appreciate your emotional experience and you wanting to say duality is bad, but let's be honest, duality is neither good nor bad. You just don't like that people are fighting. For me, I would have much more empathy, and not that I disrespect you, but I have more respect if you would say, for me, it's hurtful and frightening to see people arguing with each other, instead of trying to take this philosophical approach that duality is bad, because duality isn't bad. There's male and female, there's hot and cold, there's wet and dry. These are good things. So there's nothing wrong with duality. What's bothering you is that people are fighting with each other. That's what you don't like. And that's why I say I react when people don't take a stand for their political beliefs, simply because they're afraid people are going to judge them. Anyway, I could make another example, but I'm not going to. Let's see. Return of the Magi says he's been using the Hool Breath daily and it's been healing for him. Congratulations. I'm happy to hear that. Leslie Davis, again, if you have a question, best thing to do is to write the word question so I see it. How can you get rid of demons in your life? Leslie, you're new to my channel, right? So here's what I suggest everybody do. You go onto my channel page. So you go to thunderwizard.com, you can find a way to get to my actual channel page. When you get there, there's going to be a menu. If you're looking on a laptop or a computer, there's going to be a menu. If it's on your phone or something else, you may have to look for it. Find out where you can type in whatever phrase you want. And you can type in possession, demons, exorcism, because I have videos on that. And I talk about that. But let's be honest here, Leslie, the question is much deeper than that. You want me to give you a pill. And you're asking this huge question, and I recommend that you do some research on it. Research on my channel so you get a better idea of what causes demons to be in people's lives and what you can do to get rid of them. Let me just say before I even get to that, 98% of the time people think they have demons, they don't. So if you're saying that you have demons in your life, I'm willing to bet 98% chance that you don't. It's actually something else is going on. But look at my videos and you'll find out. If you're really interested, you'll find out, and I'll tell you about that. We're not going to take the time in this video to do that. Question. So Sam, do me a favor, write the word question in the beginning. Not a big deal today, but normally if I don't see it, I'm going to scroll right on past you. So Sam Buka gets to a question and he says, how did you become a rad being of love? All right. Well, there you go. You know what? I'm biased, so I can't answer that question. I appreciate the kind word. Of course, I like everybody else. I want people to like me. But on that note, I really try very hard to, I'm not even going to bother saying trying being humble, because in order to be humble, you have to think highly of yourself. And I really am no different than anybody else. I'm just as human as anybody. I go through the same human problems as everybody. I have a real problem with spiritual teachers that either promote themselves as being something more than human or allow themselves to be seen that way. So anyway, thank you for the kind words, but I'm no different than anybody else in this world. So there you go. That's it. I don't see any more questions. So while you're thinking of questions, because I'm getting ready to get off the video, but if you have questions, now's the time to write them down. While I'm waiting for you, I'm waiting for the time lag for you to hear what I just said and waiting for you to ask your question, let me do a little business here. So way up at the top, you see thunderwizard.com and courses.thunderwizard.com. Thunderwizard.com is the Patreon subscription site where you get in-depth videos that go much deeper than what you get even on this free channel. And I go pretty in-depth here. And there are multiple ways that you can subscribe. It's what keeps me on the air, and it's what keeps me doing this. If you want to see me continue to do this more often, go and subscribe. You will get far more worth than what you're putting into the subscription. Courses.thunderwizard.com, all of my books and other things you can find there. Of course, if you want to achieve enlightenment, there are two things you can do: subscribe and smash on that bell button, and that way you will achieve instant enlightenment, my guarantee. Now let's talk about the 90-day challenge here. We're going through a difficult period. Everybody is. I mean, you've got the difficult period of just, lockdown, which I can't believe is still going on. I thought the lockdown would be long gone by now. When it first hit, the pandemic hit, I thought maybe it'd last 3 or 4 months and then, things would get back to normal. I never envisioned it would be like it is now. I mean, it looks like there's no end to this thing. So we're having a tough time. On top of that, we do have some astrological things that are going on. Some I already mentioned, Rahu and Ketu shifting signs. But there's some things with Saturn and Jupiter going on. But we also have Mars. Mars has gone retrograde back from Aries, where it takes action. Mars takes action. When you feel inspired and you have ideas, Mars is in a good place in your chart. And for a lot of people, when it gets into Aries, it gives people a lot of power. You can take action on your ideas, but when it goes retrograde back into Pisces, where it has to dunk itself in water, Pisces is about going inward and meditating, and Mars is about going and conquering, taking action. So you might be feeling, as I felt just yesterday, the day before, when Mars went into Pisces, I felt it. And like I said, today, I just didn't do a lot of things today because I felt the shift. And, I want to acknowledge that. I want to take the time. When it's time to go in, you go in. So this 90-day challenge is about doing spiritual practices, very simple spiritual practices, morning, noon, and night. And I teach you, I've been doing yoga, qigong, tai chi, meditation, mantra for my whole adult life. And I've done the whole huge yoga things when you bend yourself into pretzels. I've done the qigong practices that go on for months, and I've done all that, and I've learned as a result of that, I've gotten a hold of some really powerful core exercises that if you want to cut to the front of the class and just get straight to the power, I can teach you those. So I teach you some real simple yogic exercises to stimulate the Kundalini, which will allow you your human ego, spiritual energy, to align itself to your soul and let you know where you need to go in life. And then the afternoon, the midday practice where we get together and we look at our, how we're being affected, how our thoughts are trying to maybe sabotage us, or things that we can do to align ourselves. We do that in the meditation for the midday practice. And then the evening practice, I give you some of the most powerful things I've ever learned. There's a couple of practices in there that if you had nothing else to do for the rest of your life, if you just did these practices, just one of them, for instance, the heaven, earth, qigong meditation, if you just did that one practice for the rest of your life, I guarantee you, if there is such a thing called enlightenment that can be achieved in one lifetime, that would be the practice that would give it to you. And then I combine that with mantra. So I've never seen anybody do this before, where they've taken qigong, which is very powerful connection to life force energy. I've never seen anybody take that and align it with Vedic mantra. And what ends up happening when you put these two things together, the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. The power is magnified hundreds, if not thousands of times. And it gives you the ability to literally think your existence into reality. You will go through a huge shift if you do it. So this is why I call it the 90-day challenge. In any case, to figure that out, go to thunderwizard.com and click around until you find the Warrior 90-day challenge, and I recommend that you subscribe and you get to follow along with me. It's not just me talking at you like I am now. It's videos of me doing the practice, and you just hit play and do the practices with me. And these are things that I do. When I want to change myself, this is exactly what I do. Okay? So now, you should have had time to write down any lingering questions. Let's see. Leslie Davis question: do you really have them demons attacking? Really do have them demons attacking me? That's not a question. There's no question mark on the end of that. Why are you pretending? I said, ask questions. Why aren't you asking me a question? You haven't asked me anything. I already told you what to do, Leslie. So the two most important things in life, I'm telling you, these are the two most important things. One is pay attention, and the other one is put effort. So pay attention when I tell you what to do. You go onto my channel page and you search for any of my videos and figure out how to bring up the search bar on somebody's YouTube channel page and type in whatever word you want. Demons, possession, exorcism. Don't come back here. I've already told you what to do. And if you're not willing to put that effort in, I can't help you. I know you're flipping out because you think you have demons, but I have no sympathy for you. Number one, you're pretending to have a question, you don't have one. And then you're not putting the effort in. So the first thing, if you want to get rid of demons, is to be consistent within yourself. That will go a long way towards getting rid of them. Return of the Magi question regarding a mantra designed for a Vedic chart, which I received your training for. My partner does not have a time of birth. What would you recommend? You can't do a Vedic chart without time of birth. So when that happens, then you do what is called a birth time rectification. I am not capable of doing that. You have to get an expert who can do that. So you find a Vedic astrologer who knows how to do birth time rectification, and they will ask you a bunch of questions, and they'll be able to hopefully narrow down to the exact minute of your birth. Then once you have the exact time, then you can go get your chart done. So you're wasting your time trying to figure something out. This isn't like Western astrology where all you need is your birth date and we talk about your sun sign. Because the reason why you can get an astrology chart done in Western astrology when you don't know the exact time is because they use your sun sign as your sign. And the sun stays in the same sign for about 30 days, which is nothing. It doesn't tell you anything other than some things about your sun. And Vedic astrology, number one, uses an accurate timing, which you already know. I know you already know this, but it uses an accurate timing because Western astrology is off by 24 degrees. And on top of that, they look at the ascendant, which changes every 15 minutes. So that's why you need exact time, because even a few minutes can change your ascendant completely. See what else? AF, question, do you make one-on-one calls? I've tried contacting you before. AF, do you see these links up here? Remember what I said earlier, pay attention and put effort. I don't like people contacting me via email unless they are my client or my student. And the way to become a client or a student is to subscribe and become an apprentice. There's multiple ways to do that. And if you don't want to do that, then you can get a one-on-one session with me, but you got to purchase it. If you purchase a one-on-one session, you can do that if you go up to the career.thunderwizard.com, you look around, put the effort into it, you'll find how to get a session with me. But no, you're not going to be able to call me on the phone or email me, and that's not going to work. I don't do that. But if somebody's really interested, they'll find the proper channels. So I don't know why you say you've tried to get a hold of me, but you haven't been able to. There are ways to do it, but you have to be willing to, do it the proper way, which is respect my time, pay me for my time, and then I'll be happy to help you. So there you go. You go to career.thunderwizard.com, scroll to the bottom and purchase a session, and then you'll be given instructions on how to schedule an appointment and how to talk to me. Irma Code, if you have a question, write the word question, please. You say, is it true we get lonely? I feel no one can stay. Is it true what they say about reptilians not having many friends? I don't know what you're talking about. Your question isn't really clear to me. And where in this video have I talked about reptilians? Anyway. Irma Cote, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. You need a psychologist. Because then you go on to say, I can't go on living, I get anxious. So I don't take that stuff lightly. I don't appreciate people dumping that kind of stuff. It's manipulative. But if you honestly mean that, then you need to get psychological help. Don't waste your time watching YouTube videos. Go get help, okay? Get a psychologist and get some help. What else? That's it. And Irma Cote, I think you're trying to give me your birth date. I'm not going to do your astrology here. You want an astrology reading? You can purchase one from me or from one of my apprentices. And you can find that again. The links are up here for a reason, guys. People ask me questions. How do I get a hold of you? How do I do this? And how long has the links been sitting there? If you put the time and put some effort, you'll find exactly how to find me. Here it may sound like I'm being a jerk, and perhaps I am. But, the knowledge that I have came from hard work. And a lot of the hard work I did was, 20, 30, 40 years ago when there was no such thing as internet. There wasn't even such thing as cell phones. And if you wanted to find something out, you had to go get on your bike, get up off your ass, or go get into a bus and ride across town and go to a library. If you wanted somebody's help, you had to find out where they were and go and knock on their door and ask them to help you. You had to put the time and the effort to do the work. And here's somebody who says, I've been trying to contact you and I can't. And there are so many ways to get one-on-one interaction with me. So it shows me that, people don't know how to put time and effort into things. And that's not necessarily anybody's fault. It's just the times that we live in. And so I do that on purpose. Number one, because my privacy is valuable to me. And it's presumptuous of people to just, when people, find my email and just dump me all these emails onto me, or when people want me to, bend myself to them. And that's not how things are done. There's a reason why teachers have that air of, unapproachability. And part of it is because if you do the work in the right way, the teacher is going to reward that, because that's what's most important. Your willingness to do the work, your willingness to pay attention. The reason why I tell people to ask me questions and to ask me honest questions, like if somebody asks me a passive-aggressive question, or if somebody asks me a question and it's duplicitous, or if they're not being completely honest, or if they're trapped in their head, as you've noticed, I slice them to pieces. And so that's why I say your best bet is to ask me an honest question, because that's going to make me want to respond. One of the reasons I do that is because you don't need me or any other teacher. If you have the ability to ask the universe the right questions in the right way, the universe will always answer them. Maybe not, as a blinding white light across your face, but you will get the answers. You will be led to where you need to go. Because the universe, you have to treat the universe like your guru. And that's not going to work if you're one of these people that believes that the universe, or that we live in this evil matrix that's out to get you. Because then all of your interactions with the universe will be out of disrespect. And you'll be coming at it from a childish, selfish perspective. You want this and you want it now. Your life is in pain. Things aren't going the way you want and you're depressed. Here's the thing. I feel for everybody. Irma, if what she says is right, she's anxious, she can't go on living. I understand that. I've been through, my own serious challenges in life. I can't compare them to anybody else's because I don't know. I'm not in your skin, but I know for me, I came this close to losing it, more than a few times. And here's the thing. The universe is not codependent. When you are somebody who believes that the universe is out to get you, if you're somebody who likes to indulge in talking about the government or the elites or some hidden cabal or the reptilians or the beings of light who are out to deceive you or whatever it is, that is how you interact with the universe, because you think the universe has it in for you. Which means that you treat the universe with disrespect and you treat it as a spoiled brat. And unlike human beings who are able to be influenced because they have egos, the universe doesn't. And it's not going to bend to your manipulations, temper tantrums. Committing suicide is a big temper tantrum. The universe won't respond to that or anything like that. So I'm actually training you. When I tell you how to write questions that get me to want to answer them, I'm actually training you how to not even have me as a teacher. If you listen to how I'm training you how to ask me questions, when you are with yourself and you're sitting in nature, you can ask the universe. If you ask the right questions in the right way, you will always get an answer. The universe is seeking. Where is the next guru? Where is the next teacher? Where can I find somebody to dump knowledge? Who's the next person that's ready to evolve to the next level of being? And the way to be available for that is to learn how to have the right questions and ask them in the right way. So, if you think I'm giving you a hard time, I am. But if you're able to not take it personally and align yourself and try and learn how to ask questions and respond to me, you won't need me or anybody else, and you can be one of those gurus that becomes self-enlightened. Okay? There you go. That's it. No more questions. So that's it for me today. I wish, again, this is just for fun. I'm not making any predictions. I hope I didn't come across like I was making any predictions about Donald Trump. I wish him and his family and everybody else in the world today who has been unlucky enough to receive this COVID infection, I wish them all health and happiness and all that good stuff. And even though I'm an expat right now, I'm in Australia, but it is my hope that the United States can get itself on track here and that it can have a smooth flowing election without any interruptions. And if there is a change of power, then that will be done peacefully and smoothly, if that's to be the case. But whatever happens, I hope that United States can get itself get some good news going forward from here, whatever that may be. All right, that's it for me, guys. Thanks for your time. I'll see you all when I see you.